مساء الخير. Right now I want to talk about إضافة and adjectives and how to describe a noun that's part of an إضافة using an adjective. In this video I'm going to assume that you have a good basic understanding of how إضافة structures work, but if you need some review there's a separate video on that subject that you can go ahead and watch. As you probably remember, an إضافة is composed entirely of nouns or pronouns, a string of just nouns. And if we have anything else separating those nouns, we don't have an إضافة anymore. The structure doesn't work. So here are a couple of examples of really simple إضافات. مكتب أستاذي, my professor's office. قهوة المطعم, the restaurant's coffee, or the coffee of the restaurant. And سيارة الطالبة, the student's car. This student happens to be grammatically feminine, which will become important later. So remember that in each of these examples, both of these nouns are considered definite, but only the last term is going to look definite, either with alif lam, like we have in these two examples, or with a possessive pronoun, like we have in this first example, I. But what if we want to describe these first nouns, these first terms of the إضافات using adjectives? Ordinarily, to describe a noun using an adjective, we would put the noun immediately, we would put the adjective immediately after the noun. Here, so if we were describing the سيارة or the قهوة or the مكتب, we would put the adjective there, but because they're part of an إضافة, that doesn't really work. It would ruin our إضافة. So what's the solution? We take those adjectives and we put them at the end of the entire إضافة. So if we wanted to say, my professor's big office, the big office of my professor, we would say, مكتب أستاذي كبير. Or the restaurant's delicious coffee, قهوة المطعم اللذيذة. Or the student's new car, سيارة الطالبة الجديدة. Remember again, these nouns technically, because they're part of an إضافة, are definite. So the adjectives describing these things have to be definite with alif lam as well. You'll notice, though, that sometimes this can create a little bit of ambiguity. Here, with the student's car, we've described the سيارة as جديدة, grammatically feminine, because سيارة, car, is grammatically feminine, but so is الطالبة. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there, and it's going to be up to us to know from context whether we're talking about the new student or the new car. Similarly, up here, مكتب أستاذي الكبير. Kabir can mean big for a thing, a physical thing, but it can also mean old for people. So if we're talking about an aged ustad, maybe we're describing my old professor, my professor who's advanced in years. Again, context is going to be our guide here. Do we know that the student is new already from something else that was said? Or are we describing an ustad who recently moved offices? Or an ustad that we know to be rather old? That's probably going to clear up some of the ambiguity. Context is going to be key for figuring out which is which. Notice that in this middle example, قهوة المطعم اللذيذة, oops, I forgot a dot. There isn't the same ambiguity because قهوة is grammatically feminine and لذيذة is a grammatically feminine adjective that also has a ta marbuta. مطعم isn't a feminine word, it's a masculine word. So لذيذة can't be describing مطعم here. There is one other thing that can help clear up some of the ambiguity. In situations where formal case endings are being used, they can actually help clear up some of the murkiness, because an adjective describing a noun takes the case endings of the noun that it's describing. All post-initial terms of an إضافة, that is every noun in idafa except the very first one is going to be majrur. If you need a refresher on case endings and how they work, you can go check out videos on those subjects as well. I'm assuming that you have a working knowledge here. But within a sentence, the first term of an idafa can be any case depending on what else is going on in the sentence. So, let me clear this up a little bit. If I wanted to say that my professor's new office is beautiful, then I would add a khabar to the end of this jumla ismiya, nominal, non-verbal sentence, right there. Now, maktab is the beginning of the mubtada. There's nothing else going on at the beginning of this sentence, so maktab is going to be marfu'a. And ustad is going to be majroor, but that E sort of swallows the sound. So now, if I want to describe the office as big or large, I would add a dhamma here because it needs to match maktab. Maktabu ustadi al-kabiru, because they need to match. Jamil. And then there would be my khabar, which is also marfu'a. If I wanted to say that I drank the restaurant's delicious coffee, I could add that verb here, and then qahwa becomes the object of that verb. It's mansoob, which means it's going to have a fatha instead, which means that ladida, because it's describing qahwa, also needs to be mansoob with a kasra. Or if I wanted to say that I rode in the student's new car, here I wrote in fi سيارة الطالب الجديدة. Now, because of this preposition, سيارة is going to be majroor, which means that جديدة is also majroor with a kasra. Here though, because طالبة is the second term of an idafa, it's majroor as well, so some ambiguity still exists. But in cases where we are dealing with texts that are fully vocalized, that can actually help clear up some of the ambiguity. In a case like this though, and as is usual, context is going to be the biggest helper in terms of helping us determine what an adjective is describing when it comes after an idafa.